G'day and welcome back to the sit down and answer the questions that come up in our program where busy dads are finding time to get be the man that want to be. If you want to be a part of the adventure, drop me a comment or reach out to us around those. Send us an email, look it up if you like, check it out. Now, let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Prevention Podcast. This is it, and we're going to do a recap episode.
So I have a bunch of questions I want to know. First, for me as well, thought busy, a lot going on. Can't make it today.
Yeah, I had a conversation with his dad last week in the Build for Adventure program. Where he went kind of quiet for a little bit. He had a big event not long ago. And he's like, yep, I'm just going to get back on the train Monday. And this was like Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's like another 5-6 days until he gets back on track. And we've all, I think every one of us have all done this before. We've all said like, I'll just start Monday. And the rule of never miss two, which is like a principle inside Build for Adventure, it's inside every coaching program I do, really. It's like, you can have a shit day, just don't miss two. Because as soon as you let yourself off the hook, the brain starts picking up on like the extra space you have in your life, the different things you do to fill in the gap of what you would be doing if you were doing the program. All those kinds of things, like so for me, for a sense, like in the business sense, my biggest trap was like working from home. I love movies. Instead of doing maybe like outreach and talking to people, I'll go upstairs and watch a movie. And I had to create this rule of never miss two to make sure I keep showing up for the thing I'm trying to do, which, yes, it's most of the time it's boring. It's very simple, but you have to stay consistent. And the rule of never miss two is just to keep you showing up long enough to achieve the goal. And even if you have a day on, you train one day and then you miss the next day. And then train the day after that. So every other day. If you do that for a year, you'll be miles ahead of where you were. But if you keep waiting until Monday, what's the saying? Like, Monday never comes.
Yeah.
So it's a trap we've all fallen into. And it's a story we tell ourselves. Like, I'm just really busy. I'm just going to wait till Monday. Like, no. Like, take that out of your head and go, I can't miss two. I can take the day off, but I've got to come back tomorrow. And then you changed it to, how can I win tomorrow? And that's like with the other episodes we've done with the traffic lights and mini pro elites. That's how you win. And we can link that back into this in the show notes. But
yeah, because actually, I was just going to ask you about how do you recommend people overcome the gravity of like once they miss one, start missing two, how do you change your mindset, change your habit again to get back on track right away? I think that Mini Pro Elite is one way to make it easier to reduce the friction to get back in the game.
Yes. That's what you said. The friction is huge because if you think about it, you're working towards a goal, you're losing weight, you start stacking on training and you've gotten up to like 40 minutes a day. Not always strength training, but just mixing, matching. You're doing some kind of activity 40 minutes a day and you're doing your nutrition, like say like you're eating quality protein every meal, 3 meals a day. And then maybe you're like doing this sleep routine and you've stacked all these really cool habits in. And then you have an off day and you miss all of it. And like if you never miss two, you can come back and go straight back to where you left off the following day. But if you skip another day, it's going to be a little bit harder to come back where you were.
Right.
Skip another day, it's going to be even a little bit harder again. So the bigger gap between the days, the harder it is to jump back where you left off. So that's why we create the mini version of everything we do. So if you do fall off the wagon, the mini is meant to be so easy it feels stupid that you can come back and collect a win to tell your brain and get back in the flow again that this is okay. I won the day. Let's keep going. And there's always pushback. Like, nah, I'll jump back in and do the hard stuff. But then it's just like yo-yoing you. You're on, you're off. You're on, you're off. You're on, you're off. We we prioritize consistency more than, I guess, ego.
Yeah, that's
If that
good.
makes sense. I don't know if it's the right word, but let the ego go and just show up for your 5 minute mini versions of everything we do. And if you're unsure what you need to do, like what's a 5 minute thing that's actually going to get results, give us a message, reach out to us. We might even do a podcast of all these 5 minute versions of things that people can do. That could be fun. But yeah, like if you have fallen off the wagon and it's taking you a while to get back on, you got to make it small. You can't jump back in where you left off before. The cool thing is, the more you practice this, because things happen, you fall off the wagon. This is why we have the rule of never miss two, because we're
Mm-hmm.
always going to have something that comes up. Stuff will always derail us. We don't know what it is. So instead of fighting that, we just create systems that allow us to get back on
Yeah.
track faster. So as you practice doing it, you get back on track quicker and quicker and quicker, and you get back to where you were before much faster too.
Yeah, and Chris, you sort of opened up a bunch of questions for me. So the other part on
Mm.
that is it gets boring and like being
Yeah, yeah.
consistent and just showing up, the newness of the workouts, the newness of the program comes and goes, and it's just like, man, this is routine, it's boring. So what's your advice there?
Um, I think understanding or having knowledge that that will happen, number one. And this is a big reason why we use the tool fueling for fat loss, because I could say, like, here's this meal plan and stick to it. What happens if I get bored? Who cares? It works. Like, imagine saying that. So it's kind of like fueling for fat loss gives you that flexibility. So rigid flexibility is another term. It's a principle, but I call it something different in Build for Adventure sometimes for different people. But the idea is like the rigid part is that you just need to show up every day. The flexible part is like what you show up for. You can change just enough to make it, to give you enough variety to make it fun. And there's like it waves around with like what goes on stress
Mm,
in your life. Like if you go into a period of really high stressful work, you want routine at home. But if you have really high stress at home, you kind of want
mm,
routine at work. And like I kind of interchange like stress with like lots of different stuff going on as well, like variety and things like that. So they're kind of interchangeable. So you balancing the two is that's normal. So something might work where you jump in and do a traditional strength program. It's the same all the time, but something changes outside the gym that causes stress, or yeah, it causes stress. That you might want variety. So it's very hard to sort of explain it on a podcast, but for a lot of people, if their stress is if their work is really stressful, they need a lot of variety in their training. But on the flip side, for me, if I'm really stressed at work, I go for
mm,
routine. That's my personality type. So I usually with people I work with, it's like a personality test to figure out what it is that they're going to show up for, which is probably the most important thing. Like, what are you going to show up for? And let's figure out how to make that work.
yeah.
So it's kind of, it's not an answer people probably want to hear. Like, yes, it's going to, the secret to success is like simplicity, consistency, and boredom equals success. Like when you talk to people who have succeeded in a lot of stuff, you might think it's boring, but they've figured out a way to make it really enjoyable because they've changed the story to what the boredom is. Like you and I, we send back each other our intentions and our wins every day. You
Yeah.
see mine. Mine are literally the same all the time. But I really enjoy putting the green ticks
Mm,
to it. So it allows me to come back and do it the next day. And that's tangent. That's why I started doing the daily wins and then the intentions straight afterwards at the same time of the day instead of the morning and night. I'm finding that's more enjoyable because if I miss something, I can
mm,
put it straight into the
that's
next day.
good. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a practice of being able to stay consistent enough. And it's our shitty stories that make us
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
derailed.
I think that was one of the things I sent you feedback from this past week. Like the showing up every day, there's a feeling I'm feeling that's not comfortable, but it's a story around that
Mm,
feeling of it's not fulfilling, it doesn't feel good. I feel like I'm failing, but I'm still showing up. And so you reminded me about my story, um,
mm.
the sense making, the how I'm understanding these sensations in my body, putting around a different story around that, finding the win even when it feels like a loss. You know?
Yeah, that's, yeah, mic drop moment on that one. I think, I don't know how you feel with it, but social media comparison pulls us out of our flow
Yeah.
a lot. Like we could get into a really good routine and then we see what someone else is doing. We're like, I got to be more. I got to do more, or I'm missing something. There's something I need to be doing, and it knocks us out of this really awesome flow we just
Mm,
got into, which is a big reason. Like we were just talking off air before, is like I want to take the conversations I'm having with dad away from social media and get it into email because it's just one to one, direct, and then into DMs or direct messages or even text messages. Like to have the real conversation about
yeah.
what's really going on and get it away from the comparison world of what social media is, where I think with dads and mums or parents in general, there's a lot of like undertones of like you can be better, you're doing a shit job kind of thing. It's kind of what the feeling is when you see a lot of stuff on
Hmm.
social media, like what the highlight reels and stuff. And then it feels like there's always something lacking in
Mm,
your life. And then what we want to do with these fitness and health stuff, it's like it might not be the number one thing and it doesn't have to be. It's meant to make everything else better. It spirals out. So this simple and consistent shit that we're doing in health and fitness spirals out and positively affects everything
yeah.
else. So you have more capacity
Yeah.
for all the other stuff. It's a bit of a tangent, but yeah.
No, it's right on. I think it's a great segue into a question you had for, I think, a 40-year-old woman, a question about nutrition.
Yeah.
What advice would you give her?
Yeah. Yeah. So she commented on a post a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, the all or nothing mentality. She's a goer. Like she's a doer. She trains really hard. I think I'm pretty sure she'll message me if I got this wrong because she listens. I'm pretty sure she's done 75 hard twice or maybe three times, and even like the extension
Wow.
of 75 hard. So she's not doesn't really have an issue of getting stuff done, but she has an issue of like the all or nothing mentality,
Hmm.
which is what we were just talking about. Like
Hmm.
if I can't do it all, I'm going to do nothing. So I gave her a plan of like what's the goal, and then what's your mini pro elite versions of everything. So she's actually scribbled it down and sent it back to me, and then was like, "What's your thoughts around nutrition for women?" And it's like it's such a loaded question. I laugh only because I talk to Kat about this all the time. She's like, she said to me yesterday, she's like, I don't mean to say this to you, but it's so unfair that guys literally can just do this and it works. I'm like, yeah. It is like for guys, it's like very simple. Train, match nutrition to movement, and it's all going to work fine. For women, I'll use
Mm-hmm.
Kat as an example. We went for a trail run on the weekend. The week before, she felt amazing. We did 10Ks and crushed it. On the weekend, as we were going, she was just sore. Everything hurt. And we were just talking as we were going because just trying to match the pace and the intensity. And she's coming into her cycle time. So everything was just exponentially harder. Her calves felt like she was going to pop
Mm-hmm.
the whole run. Getting up hills was a challenge. And she just didn't want to be out there. Something that guys don't have to worry about. Sports bras was crushing her chest and it was hurting. So when it comes to nutrition for women, there's like, especially at 40, when it's getting close to that menopausal stage, it kind of changes the game a little bit. But the really cool thing is like if it's a weight loss thing, it's still the same rules. There was a lot of there is a lot of stuff around it, but there's still quantity is the answer for weight loss. If you want to get leaner, you have to be in some kind of deficit, whether that's calorie tracking or whatever. What generally tends to happen as women age and if they get into menopause and stuff, there's a really good book by Lyle McDowell called The Women's Book. I'll link it. It costs a bit, but it's very sciencey, but it's very good. And there's another one called Next Level Metabolism. It's just on my table right there. But the idea is like, yes, menopause is horrendous. I don't know what it feels like, so I'm talking about it through the lens of a coach. It does some shocking shit to your system. Nutritionally, people would sort of think that my body's broken, I'll never be able to lean out again. That's now sort of come to be like, it just moves the target lower again. So technically, when you're in a deficit as a normal female, let's say 1,200 calories and you're losing weight. When you shift into menopause, you might have to go down to 1,000 or
Wow.
whatever. Like, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but you can still lean out when you're in menopause. It's just, it's
Mm-hmm.
very, very challenging. So you got to, this is where the rigid flexibility approach makes the most sense. And this is why I use this approach because it's going to kill a spider on the wall. Funny. The way it kind of works is like you, when they go through the hormonal shifts and the mood shifts and energy shifts and all that kind of stuff, they have like the cravings get pretty wild. So instead of like willpowering your way through cravings, you can sort of have it, but have this much like setting little rules around it. It's a very loaded question. So it's hard for me to
Yeah.
answer globally, but it's kind of like I think you need to figure out like what it is that you're currently eating, so you get an idea of what it is that you're the amount of food you eat per week, and then track yourself in some way, measurements, photos, weighing in to get a trend, and then you reduce your quantity based off the comparisons from week 5 to week 1, not week 2 to week 1, week 3 to week 2. You don't compare week to week to week. You have to have a 4 week window to take in the amount of changes the body goes through. So if your week 5 is like if you're leaning out from week 5 compared to week 1, it's working. Week 6 to week 2, week 7 to week 3, week 8 to week 4, and then you just keep repeating that 4 week trend line. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of smooths out
The water.
the water weight fluctuations. Yeah. I learned, well, I can't remember who I learned that from. It was like a really good video. He had circles on the board and he did it all. And when I learned, I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. I started doing that with all the
Mm-hmm.
females I was coaching. As soon as you get past 4 weeks, that's when we start looking at the weight loss. And then performance is a key. It's like, yes, we want to get weight loss, but we want to feel really good while we're doing it. Because there's just that fine barrier. If you go too far into a hole as a female and your hormones and stuff start shutting down, it's a big hole to kind of
Mm-hmm.
climb back out of. Yeah, that was a loaded
Yeah, and
answer.
well, here's another one. On the hormonal side, I know you want to, yeah,
Mm,
you have experience with that with cat, I'm assuming, but maybe with your
mm.
women clients. Anything you can share on that?
Um, yeah, it's kind of, it's really, again, this is a dude
Yeah,
saying this, so I get it and how weird this would sound. If, if you look at it like a solvable problem, whatever the hormonal issues that are coming up, you still go through the principles. So if the goal is weight loss, you go, cool. So I need to be in some kind of deficit. What is that going to look like with whatever hormonal thing we're juggling? And what kind of, which way how are we going to achieve this deficit? So depending on the hormonal change or whatever's going on in the person, if it's really, really stressful, all that kind of stuff,
stress.
which
Yeah,
definitely it is, especially if it's like getting the menopausal stuff, like things like fasting are like the worst idea, I believe. Some people can do it, but fasting is a stress. So if you look at the concept of the stress cup, when you're in menopause or when you're going through your cycle, your body's under a fair bit of
mm,
stress. Why would you want to put more stress on top? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Same with training. So if you're going through those hormonal shifts in your cycle and you're like the show time, whatever, the your body's under the most amount of stress. Doing really, really hard, intense training, your body doesn't want it. Like Kat
yeah,
felt that on the weekend. The body was holding it back. Like you don't have
mm,
capacity right now. So it's like balancing the training load to the cycle and even to the menopausal cycle, like what kind of flow system goes with that, which you can kind of track with the
yeah,
water fluctuations and things. But it's kind of like I enjoy coaching it because it's like an experimentation. What can we get away with? What can we do most of the time? When everything falls into place and you have that little 2 week window or 3 week window where it's like, this is amazing, my body feels great. You go ham, go do it all. And then when it goes back to those stressful times when the hormones kick in and you start feeling a bit shitty and your cravings get a bit higher, lean into it. We flip to a different
mm,
phase where it's like a more like a rest and digest phase. More baths with wine, watching movies, drinking chocolate, like having chocolate, having those kind of trigger foods, but having rules around it so you don't go too far. But not as much training, more walking. And then when it feels good, up your training, train every day, go more intense, up your walking again, and be a bit harder on your food, and just keep balancing between those two phases all the time. It leans in more. It's more flow
mm.
like. It's kind of like sounds really bad going down a river on a boat. If you're going into the rapids, you don't want to add any more stress to it. You just want to basically let the river take you where you want to go. And then when everything's hunky dory and it's nice and smooth, then you can start playing around and going crazy.
Yeah,
Does that make
yeah.
sense?
There's a couple things there. Like again, I love how you talk about decide where you want to put the challenge. You touched on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, that's a good point. Yeah, like your bodies will give
Hmm.
clues and cues to what it needs in the moment. You can willpower your way through it and just force it to do the thing, or choose to put your
Yeah,
challenge somewhere else
yeah.
and just sort of let your body flow into whatever it needs to do.
I think that was one of the big eye-opening things for me was just that thought, just that whole idea. I never thought about it like that before, and that gave me, I think, room for wisdom, for compassion. When like, man, this is hard. I wonder why it's hard. Do I want it to be challenging like this, or can I put my
Mm,
willpower and discipline somewhere else where I actually need it, not necessarily in my workout or in my food. So that was one of the big things
yeah.
you taught me. Um, I love it. So this woman, what I know she's already like crushing it 75 hard, but is
Mm.
are there best exercises or a set of exercises for women in that age range or age group? Maybe activity level.
Um, yeah, walking probably the best one by a mile. More walking just to get in the habit of doing it, and it's the body's reset. So everyone will fight against it because it's again, it's
Yeah.
so simple, it's so boring. But if we consistently do it, people who consistently go for an hour walk every day generally are lean, especially when they match the nutrition
Mm,
to their movement. So walking's number one. And then in the sense of like in the gym or anything like that, I always lean into the thing of like it's always individual and the body will tell you. So if in the sense of cat, she hates lunges but loves step
mm,
ups. She likes deadlifts, but is a gun at squats. And it feels better, but she likes the deadlifts. And then hates push ups, loves bench press. So it's kind of like putting those things and doing the movements that you kind of enjoy doing that you would show up for, and then sprinkling enough of the stuff to make sure you were staying balanced enough. And again, knowing that we have to show up and do the work, but being flexible enough that we can interchange
yeah.
and move things around to allow the work to be done. I think that's a better way of looking at it than me saying you need to do this. I'm like, nah, so much depends on what's going on. Like core exercises and things, like if you got diastasis recti, like separation from pregnancy
Mm,
in the stomach, there's all these different things we have to worry about. So it's always like the movement bubble, which I
yeah.
think I've
With
talked about
injury.
before. It's like, what is the movement? Yeah, like in the terms of this goes for everybody. Do the movement that allows you to move really well and feel good inside your bubble. And then most of the time, you'll keep training and showing up because you feel good doing it and you don't have any
Mm,
niggles. Yeah, that's the way. Walking would be number one for sure to just let the body's reset. When you're in like a deep stress state, going for a walk is the reset. So I would always pivot everything off walking. And then that goes with like running too. Like if you go zone two, very easy running, they're kind of interchangeable. Walking
okay.
and zone two running. Like you get to that kind of stage, you can alternate between them. That's kind of perfect
And
if
yeah,
you're into
and really
running.
quick, how can people calculate their zone two? Just general.
Yeah. So Phil Maffetone's got a very loosey goosey one um, to figure it out, which is taking 180 minus your age. So I'm 39. So if my heart rate's below 141, I'm pretty roughly in zone two. A lot of watches will calculate it for you based off your workouts and stuff, but you have to do a workout which is like crazy intense to get your max heart rate for it to
Wow.
calculate it properly. Otherwise, it's always off, and it's really hard to do that. Like I've tried really hard to do a workout where it's so crazy intense to get my heart rate as high as it can. I find it really hard to do. So I wouldn't recommend it because if your not body's not used to it, it will destroy you like it did to me. So 180 minus your age is a really good way to look at it. So that's 141. So anything below 141 is like zone two, zone one kind of work. And the way Phil Maffetone kind of does it is like you work up until you hit to 140. So for me, I hit 141, 180 minus my age. I work up till then, and then I rest. And so if you're running, I run until I hit 142. And then I rest until it's 160 minus my age, which is 121. So
Mm,
I'll walk until I get down to 121 beats a minute, and then I start running again. So you just keep bouncing between 121, 141, or whatever that is for you. That'll be your zone two. Below 120 will be my zone one. And then there's different methodologies and ideas around what zone three, four, and five are, depending on who you talk to. Coach Diaz, the obstacle racing coach, was the one I followed. He's like, your zone three is kind of like 10 beats above. So 141 to 151 is kind of like my zone three. Then my zone four is 151 to 161. And then anything over 161 is
mm.
my zone five. And I using that has been kind of useful to not destroy me, number one. And just a quick calculation. Like if we're not athletes and we're not getting paid to do this shit, that kind of calculations will be fine.
Yeah, keep it simple. And I guess
Yeah.
there's another question here um, that I'm actually curious about as well. Like, is there a best time for women to work out?
Yes. The time that they can do it,
Yeah,
which is enjoyable. Yeah. Anything else anyone tells you, I wouldn't really worry about. Unless you have like nannies and all kinds of stuff that can look after your kids and you don't have to work, then generally for most people, training not long after lunch, like mid afternoon, is usually the best time because your body's woken up for the day. You, I've always lifted much better in the afternoon, but
yeah,
I train in the morning. So I train when I enjoy it. I lift better in the afternoon, but I do not enjoy
mhm,
training in the afternoon, mainly because I get up so early. But yeah, the rule of thumb I reckon for everybody is like because I've gotten asked this before when I've coached women. What's the best time of day I should train? I'm like,
yeah,
the time you can train. Like I wouldn't really worry about it. Like if you can only train at 5 a.m. in the morning because the rest of the day absolutely goes to shit, that's the time to train. And for most parents and most women, I would lean towards that. Like it's hard, and I get it because I say it's the cat too. This is super challenging. She tried for 4 years to do running and strength training in the afternoons after work, and we couldn't get it to work. And it's been the last 12 months. She found a running buddy, and she goes running at 4:30 a.m. in the dark with headlamps on, with that twice a week, and then we do one on the weekend, and then she does strength work the other
wow,
2 mornings. She hasn't missed a week really. She might have missed one or two. Like it's hard. She's tired, but it's done. She doesn't have to stress. She's won the day
yeah,
before the kids even wake up. That's
yeah.
the biggest key. I think claim your wins before the day takes over.
Get that early win in. It sets the tone for the day. I
Mm.
agree. Another question. I'm sure you got this, but will lifting make women bulky?
No, not really. You have to have like a out of whack kind of hormonal balance to get like super jacked like so thinking like that really muscular CrossFit female look like Tia Toomey, Cara Webb. They're like the Australian female CrossFit athletes. They're
Hmm.
amazing athletes and stunning, but most of the women I talk to, they're like, I don't want to look like that, or like a when China got busted for roiding up all their swimmers, the female swimmers were huge. Like, I don't want to look like that, like that kind of thing. So it's it's really really hard to get to that size. Like it takes a lot of time and a lot of work and perfect scenarios of like no stress, lots of sleep, training almost daily, training like 2 hours a day, really dialed in nutrition to put
Hmm.
on that kind of mass. Genetics plays a huge role. Like you might not have the genetics to do it anyway. Some do because they just got wider shoulders. Like my family on my mum's side, they're all very wide shouldered people. They look like swimmers generally. So if they were lean, they always look like you'd be a good swimmer. Or in the case of the guys, they always look like a rugby player. So we're always big. So in that sense, genetically, yes, there's tall women. Genetically, they're going to be tall. Same as like women, like some women have got bigger frames. Genetically, you've got a big frame, so you're going to look like you've got a big frame. There's not much you can do with that. But from go to woe, I can't remember the stats. I'll have to look it up. I'll, I'm going to butcher it. I'm going to see, but I think it's like 5 kilos total of mass from zero to hero for a female to put on with training. That's it. How much muscle mass can women gain? Just to make sure, so I don't bullshit myself. The Well, this one says 20 to 25 pounds over a lifetime of training. So it's like 5 to
Mm.
10 kilos. 10 to,
Hmm.
yeah, 5 to 10 kilos. Is that math right? Anyway,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
the conversions are. So that's over a lifetime of training, years and years and years. So I understand it because the social media thing, like you don't want to look like uber jacked and you don't want to feel like you like a jacked, muscle bound warrior woman. I don't know. So I think it just takes so much dedication and volume of training for it to happen. But I don't think it's really needed to be worried about for the majority of people. Like training women for the last
Hmm.
14 years, I've yet to have a female who I've trained through like normal movements like squats, bench press, all that kind of stuff, put on tons of muscle and say like I'm too big. I've never heard it. Usually it's just like I just want to get leaner. So we're like, cool, we're just training. We're just what we do is we do the strength training to retain as much muscle as we can while you're getting lean. So you have longevity
Mm.
in your life. You
Hmm.
can do more things. Because it's not a bit only, especially at the like we're at 40 now, especially at this age, everything we should do for training should be about I want to keep doing this shit when I'm 60. And if that doesn't fall, if that it doesn't give you that answer, like if you're trying to do something, and you're like, I'm not going to do this when I'm 60. I'm like, why do it now? Within reason, like there's fun
Yeah.
stuff you can do, but we want to make sure we can still do this stuff when we're
Yeah,
older.
and that's actually one of the principles uh, you've come up with as well. Like, if you can't do it for long seasons of your life, then don't even start.
Yeah, which is like what you said about the boredom thing too. It's like we should change the name to something else away from boredom. But I like people see what I do and they're like, that's boring as shit. But it's so meditative now, and it's just a part of the thing that I because it allows me to do other stuff.
Yeah.
So I can once you tie in what you're showing up for, the boring shit, where it allows you to do other things really well, then it becomes easy to show up for. Like I know if I do this, I'm going to be able to do that.
Yeah, because I think the idea here is using fitness and nutrition to support everything else in your life. Like it's not a separate thing. It's something that
Mm.
you're actually building upon. Like it is foundational in that way, but it's generational. It meaning like we're we're doing the fitness and the nutrition in order for other areas of our life to get better, right?
Yeah, yeah, more capacity to do
More
more cool things.
capacity. Yeah. So what
Mm.
is a way that we can or that you think that might be more appealing? The Built for Adventure was made for men, for fathers.
Mm.
And is there a way we can talk about this that would be appealing for moms and women? Or is it are they looking for adventure? Like what's coming in your convos, your conversations? Is there an interest for adventure as well, you think?
I think there is. The tone feels like there is with the conversations I'm having. The biggest obstacle is mum guilt
Uh,
because dads don't really have that. So we can just like, hey, go in the gym, see you, bye. Like I do it all the time. Like the kids would be at home, they'll be playing or whatever, they eating breaking. I'm like, why are you eating breaking? I'm going to get downstairs and train. They're like, yeah, we'll come down when we finish. I'm like, cool. But Cat could never do that. She gets mad mum guilt and stays up there and sits there with them, do the thing. So I don't like the idea of like just do it because they've been told this for ages. but the mum guilt's still there. So it is kind of that having the conversation and writing down. This is where I think journaling is huge. Is like re-teaching your brain that filling your own cup is like the oxygen mask thing. Like
Mm,
you got to put your own oxygen mask on before you put on anyone else's. We all know this stuff. But I think it's like, and I think the mums know this stuff too. But the mum guilt is so strong that it overpowers it. And I think it's like rewriting the story and collecting proof. So I
mm-hmm,
guess that's the main thing. It's like when you are pushing back against mum guilt and working on yourself, collect proof that it's improved the family dynamic. Because then your brain will start quieting down the mum guilt noise. I mean, I believe that's the only way to get it
mm,
to quieten down. It's like do the thing, collect proof that it has made the family dynamic better, which there's a lot of ways you can collect proof with that. Like you're showing up as more energetic, you're not quick to anger, the kids are coming down and training with you and enjoying training with you, role modeling, all that kind of stuff. If you can see improvements in that, then the mum guilt will kind of get quieter and quieter and quieter. And then it won't always
mm,
go away, but it'll just be more manageable. And like I think like dad guilt's like a totally different thing. Dad guilt I think is a
yeah,
career thing. It's like are we providing? Are we creating a legacy? And we constantly think about that all
yeah,
the time.
very true.
So I think that's the dad guilt thing. When we can go train really easy. Where well, ours is all about like because I guess like training was like preparing for the hunt. So in the sense of like Paleolithic times, like we'll prepare for the hunt, we'll go hunt, and we're providing. Yeah. So we could always go do that. So that's the two different sort of scenarios. I think that mum guilt, dad guilt, why they're so different, and why dads can so easily switch off and just go do the thing because it's. I believe it's like this subconscious thing of being like legacy, career,
Yeah,
providing, success, all that kind of shit. While mums is like, it's so ingrained that they need to be the protective carers of their kids. And they're like, the brain's just like, no, you can't go have time for yourself. You got to go
yeah,
hang out with your kids
mm-hmm,
24 hours a day.
mm,
This is where I like, where the early morning thing makes the most sense. Get in before mum guilt kicks in. Get in, get your training done, and then you can be a mum. You've already done it. It's hard. No, like
yeah,
for real, it's hard getting up early. Like, but it's night and day different what it's done for Kat. Seeing lived experience without me saying it to her, I just would suggest it, but just sort of let it sit there because like the coaching partner dynamic thing just doesn't work well. But she started doing it naturally, and her friend asked her to come, and then when she started doing it, she started feeling better during the day. Everything sort of started just improving, like the spiraling effect. Everything improved because of it. So yeah, mum guilt. Fuck, we get it easy. I think, to be fair, us guys, like we got, like yes, everyone's got shit, but it's so much easier. It's so. I will say it's simpler,
mm,
guys. We've got
simple.
a simple path to get what we want. It's just we've got to do it and change the story to allow us to do it. For women, your path is much more windy. I was going to say treacherous. It's not treacherous is the right word. It's more windy. There's more obstacles that come in your way. But it also means when you make this stuff work,
Yeah,
you own it more because it was more
yeah,
challenging to get. So it's harder
yeah.
to lose.
So true, so true.
So, yeah.
And I think Chris, like this conversation today just kind of reemphasizes for me like the benefits of working with a coach. Just having that outside point of view, that outside conversation from the internal dialogue you may have within your own mind. Just having another point of view in there.
Mm,
The collecting proof was beautiful. It's a great point. Help overcome the mom guilt. Yeah.
yeah. I think Going back to the boredom thing, collecting proof is how you make the boredom fun.
Mm.
Like, I'm doing this, this, and this, and this today. I did this, this, this yesterday. I did this, this. I'm doing this tomorrow. And then pay attention to what improves. And it'll be just weird things that will come up. I would give you an example. Yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
Greg, who's in Build for Adventure, I went around to his place and he created a obstacle racing simulator. We had 10 stations and we had to run 600 meters, which is his block, between each station. And I've just been running on the treadmill in the dark just to try and juggle things around the kids, doing all my volume there and strength training and stuff. I haven't done an obstacle race sim in, I haven't done an obstacle race since February. And I would say it's not the same, obviously, but usually, so my zone two runs are like 6.5 minute kilometers when I go for a zone two run, roughly that, just to stay zone two. I did book it in this workout yesterday, and my kilometer paces was like 5 to 5.5. It was 5 minutes 53 a kilometer with the strength training
Wow.
inside it as well. So I would do the strength station or the rope climb or the monkey bars or whatever, and then the run. I haven't even done that in a Spartan race before. So the I did it in my journal. It was like first thing I wrote down was like I've just collected proof that the training I'm doing is actually working. And I was starting to get a little bit like, oh, these 2 hour treadmill sessions are getting brutal. And now I'm just like, they're working. Keep going. Now I'm excited to do the next
Wow.
one. So collecting that proof, there's little things that will pop up where it'll be like, oh yeah, I wouldn't be able to do this before. You need to write it down so the brain's like, huh, that's sick. Let's do that again. And you can keep showing
Mm.
up for it. Collecting proof's
Yeah.
huge. It gets dismissed a lot because it's mundane and can be kind of annoying. Um, to write down the shit you do all the time. I think it's just so powerful. And once you start seeing the changes, it's pretty awesome.
I agree, brother. I agree. Well, uh,
I think that we
yeah,
wrap it up or we've got another
we can
one.
wrap it up.
Yeah, that was a good one. Good for adventure. There's a few mums in there. So if you are a mum and you want to get built for adventure, reach out, let us know. We are going to probably open up a mums group. Actually, at the moment, I'm just doing one on one, so I don't have a mums group for it, but that's ready to go. Build for Adventure Dads, if you want in, reach out to us. We're here, ready to roll. If you're ready to figure out how to make all this shit you've been trying for so many years to make it stick, this training, this nutrition, this lifestyle stuff, you really want to figure out how to make this stuff stick, it's time to reach out. That's literally what
Yeah.
we do. And we make it enjoyable. Adventure's different for everyone. That's a big thing. Adventure's different for everybody. What I'm doing for adventure is not what I get everyone else to do. But we want you to seek your adventure, whatever that is. And then we create a system to allow you to do it.
Beautiful, brother.
Anything you want to add,
No,
Rick?
man. Thank you for the conversation. I learned a ton. Grateful for you.
Thank you, dude. Thank you for firing the questions at me. See you, everyone. See you next week.